Okay. So when you say weekly and then take action, what you are referring to is, let's say, for example, take easy one, your traffic is 500 sessions a
Yeah.
day, every day. So first of all, are you fetching the report for a week or are you fetching it daily for a week?
Yeah, so we fetch it daily, and then we will kind of like sit down, look at, if you see something dip, then it takes some time to do the analysis and like actually produce from when you saw the dip to create the action to turn things around or do more of what is working well. Not all things trend
Okay.
negatively, but it takes a little bit of time to actually produce the action depending on whatever it is that caused a dip, an increase or decrease of that metric.
Okay. So that means that you're gonna fetch the report daily, and you're not gonna do anything if 500 sessions on day one goes to 400 sessions on day two. You're not gonna do anything. You're gonna wait a week, and you're gonna see 500, 400, 480, 520, 360, and then you're
Yeah,
gonna see
absolutely.
what's happening, what is the, so you're going to have some kind of a trend calculation and
Yeah.
see what the overall trend is. And then if the trend is going down, then you're going to say, okay, what's going on here? That's what you mean, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You've got to kind of establish that baseline in a trend. And again, I think the cadence for that trend, a good cadence is weekly and just looking at things because if you have, any one day can be thrown out, but typically a weekly kind of like trend, week over week, looking back. We typically look back around 9 periods is what we've found to be kind of the sweet spot for take into account a little bit of seasonality or if there was a big sale in the recent past. But 9 weeks is, I think, a pretty good spot to have as kind of like your look back to give you reference for, okay, this week, how did I do? And how far back should I look to compare? And then obviously year over year can be really helpful. But there's so much that can happen in a year with ecom, especially with introducing new products and so forth, that sometimes year over year actually isn't like all that helpful. So you have to take year over
Well,
year with a little bit of a grain of salt.
I mean, 9 weeks is, I mean, it will tell you the story, but 9 weeks, let's say, for example, especially if you're selling seasonal products, right? So
Oh, for
9 weeks,
sure.
for example, looking at 9 weeks back at the end of December versus looking at 9 weeks back at the end of September, as there's a huge difference, right? So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Then you're probably
yeah,
looking at monthly.
yeah. So I mean, it's, I guess the point you're making is there really is no magic bullet where you look at this and then you do this. You have to really take into account other factors and then overall look back 9 weeks and then look at it and monitor weekly and then investigate if there are fluctuations going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of why I believe there will kind of like always be a human touch in the actual management of brands online and products. And you need some of that kind of intuition that people have about either products launching or reasons why something was delayed and maybe there was a mismatch in when your marketing budget got approved, but when your product actually launched and you couldn't line things
Yeah.
up perfectly and like um, yeah, there's so much that goes into it. So you always kind of have to have that intuition and touch and extra information that you can bring in to provide context on, okay, what am I looking at? Why does it look like this versus that?
Yeah. So now taking this methodology that you suggested, uh, you can in fact apply this to any metric. So really what that means is there are several, I mean, you mentioned the 3 data points, AOV, traffic, and conversion. But really, there are other metrics, like for example, your ACOS, your
Yep.
ACOS, ROAS, same thing, or your TACOS, and there are many other metrics like units sold, your total sales, and so make a list of all the metrics that you want to stay on top of, and then apply your methodology to fetch them daily, track them in terms of trend.
Yep.
For sure. That's a whole different discussion. You know, how do you determine trend? I said we're not going to get into it. You have to determine what the trend is as you track it daily, fetch it daily, and then look at it on weekly basis. What happened during that week?
Yep.
And then compare that to the past 9 weeks, or the past 8 weeks altogether, making it 9 weeks.
Yep.
And that will tell you the whole story about how you are performing in that particular area that the metric is associated with, right?
Yeah, I would say for the most part, absolutely.